Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Awaken Podcast. My name is Natasja Pelgrom, and we are live here from Breaking Convention 2025 on actually day 3, and some very diverse conversations that I've already been having. And right now, I want to introduce to you someone that I've met here, Lizzy Fleming. Welcome.
Thank you.
Your bio, I'm going to share it. So there is a word that I might not pronounce correctly. So please correct me if I'm wrong. Please interrupt and correct it. Okay. She's the founder and the director of Play, Design and Build, a nonprofit profit creation Sanctuaries for Imagination, a co-founder of a charity creating adventures on playgrounds in Halabja,
Iraqi
you
Kurdistan.
See? In Kurdistan, yes. You see? For a second there, I thought it was the name of the company, but no. A lecturer in play theory, risk, challenge, and self-built adventure playgrounds, creation and ecological playgrounds that mitigate the effects of climate change on children's access to play, and a teacher of carpentry, mosaic, willow, and sculpture, consultant on maximizing access to play in urban environments to planners and architects. And your talk at Breaking Convention was really about play, neuroplasticity, and the psychedelic mirror. So this is like so fascinating to me, because when Roz, who is the press officer for Breaking Convention, shared that you were here, she says, psychedelics help you to create these playgrounds. And I was like, what? So please elaborate.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, and I was really happy to be invited by Nikki as part of the creative communities realm of this conference. So sort of I'm a non-academic, not a clinician or a researcher, but my friendship with LSD over the last 30 years has definitely informed and inspired and given me a psychedelic kick up the bum whenever I've got too annoyingly earnest about anything in my world of work.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited here because it's the first time at a conference I've kind of been out as a trip head, because especially working with children and young people, that has to be kept very boundaried still.
Yeah.
But alongside that, there's a kind of porous boundary, like a sense of osmosis between my experience and understanding recreationally in psychedelics and a real wish to kind of connect and raise up the opportunity of experience for those that have the least, the kind of children and young people that are not going to be able to get anywhere near the experience of having the financial, psychological luxury and security to be able to reach sort of individual psychedelic enlightenment. It's still quite a niche sort of area in terms of that. So yeah, I'm really excited about bringing a sense of, well, a sanctuary for the imagination, and what that means. It's not just the physical, it's the emotional landscape. It's what happens when children interact with each other, and that's the kind of magic, shimmery deliciousness similar to the psychedelic experience. Set and setting goes one way, but it's the magic, you don't know what's going to happen, the magic between the participants as well.
Yeah. And so great that you're not an academic, because that's also what belongs here, right? In that sense, but you have a very different experience and views. So how have you is it specifically LSD that you've worked with, majority, that you have a big relationship with, or also other teaching agents that you've had a relationship?
Yeah, mushrooms and DMT as well. I mean, all recreationally. I've never been to a retreat or anything like that. It's never been therapeutically obtained. And I was excited to be on the panel today with John Crow and Eric Davis on Bicycle Day, which I didn't realise. And all three of us talking about acid, which was pretty magic. But as I said in my talk, my background was from sort of DIY party culture and road protests and raves. And there was a direct lineage from them to the self-build autonomous space of infinite creativity in adventure playgrounds. I saw that same sort of thing happening. It's very anti-capitalist, it's anti-commodification of the play or the raving experience.
Yeah. And how do you feel that that it has informed you in the actual design, or like in what way? Maybe help me understand how the information has been translating in
I'd say
doing it.
not in an obvious way, not in the kind of obvious way that you'd think of like a psychedelic artist and the sort of aesthetic they might produce.
Yeah.
For me, it's really helped calibrate a sense of integrity and honesty and rigor in how I work, and keeping the ethical core. I run a non-profit and I work for redressing the balance of access for children that have the least. So structures and projects are free at the point of access for children. It's about empowering communities with skills and co-designing in a non-extractive way. It's really not about just going in and doing a tick box thing, but really listening and working and understanding what's happening in communities and how kind of multi-layered approach to mitigate some of the play deprivation that children are suffering. We work in London predominantly. So it's a lot of children with rubbish playgrounds or no playgrounds. Their lives, it's actually quite tough being a child, especially in the UK. The studies that come out in the last few years I think it's one of the least happy countries for young people in Europe, which is really shocking. And there's adventure playgrounds are being closed down, youth clubs are being closed down. There's increasing restriction on, what children can do in schools, if they can go and play. And then there's a rise, obviously, in, online sort of culture and children not playing outside. So they're playing in their rooms, and that can be quite a dangerous place.
Yeah. There is, you said something around fractal impossibilities.
It's a lovely catch-all term for a psychedelic conference, isn't it? Those old fractal impossibilities.
Yeah, exactly.
I use that because the parallels I see with the psychedelic experience and the infinite possibilities of play. Because, I tapped the mic. Play is intrinsically motivated. It's a drive in humans, and that we become human through play and discover our relationship to each other and the environment. And there's kind of almost like a motor. Children have to play. They have to turn somersaults to develop their brain for sensory maturation, proprioception, and then obviously relational capability and empathy and all that kind of stuff. And what play does, it's sort of like, it's so unique and specific, but so kind of open-ended to everyone. It's inside you, this possibility, and you're not quite sure where it's going to go unless you really engage in it. And because there's so many different ways people can play, I think people tend to quite reductively think of, oh, children running around, that's play, but it's not. It can be symbolic, fantasy, quite ritual, playing out ideas of mortality. Deep play I really love, which is a play type that one of the outcomes might be death, but children are still compelled to do it. And Bob Hughes has hypothesized that recapitulative play, which is children compelled to make dens and build fires because they're playing out sort of human evolution of that. So I suppose that's what I mean by the fractal possibilities, and all the different nuances and sensitivities of the aesthetic, the smells, the textures, the sounds, the quiet spaces. It's really reductive to just think play is just children running around. It's definitely not sport. It's not theme parks. It's not, there's many things it's not, but it can be something really magic. You're not exactly sure how it's going to go and how long it's going to last and who else is going to interact with it, and then what happens, which has got, again, loads of parallels with the human in a psychedelic experience.
Exactly. So what we can say is that, play is essential for our evolution, for all of it. What do you see is play in relationship in adults in that way?
Well, that's one, facet, that another connection with psychedelics. I think it can connect humans back to an unself-conscious playful curiosity that they've lost, because obviously the neural connections and the healthy brain development is really vital, particularly for children under the age of 3. But it's not to say that adults can't benefit fundamentally from play, as parallels, if we know, with the psychedelic experience. It can be really transformative, that sense of, a disillusion of ego, or just pure delight. And the switch between the silly and sacred, I really love as well, and how that can kind of fluctuate momentarily back and forth. That's so magic. So I predominantly work with children and young people because they have a really tough lot. So I don't know too much about, I haven't done specific work with building playgrounds for adults, because often I rail against that, because it tends to be something that then becomes a paid experience, like those high ropes courses or a really long slide or a zip line, which obviously are really fun. Like, I love them. I love roller coasters, the sensation. But for me, it's quite one note, just pure sensation. But it's been modulated and delivered through a mechanism that is about extraction, and it's commerce, and it's someone's pressing a button. You're not engaging on your own terms with the environment around you. If that makes any sense.
Yes. So if I understood correctly, you've also created playgrounds for post-trauma work, actually, or after traumatic experiences in environment. Can you speak a little bit into that, as the ability to then transform as a community through play after disturbances like war or climate or...
So my soul and spirit was forged on the adventure playgrounds of London, and they were started being built in the 1950s after the war. A woman called Marjorie Allen, an amazing landscaper, went to Denmark to learn from the junk playgrounds in Emdrup from Theo Sorensen, brought back this concept to the bomb sites of London where children were playing. And there was a rise in population after the war, and also a rise in road traffic. And then huge amounts of houses and streets have been bombed, and also a traumatized population. So children started playing in the bomb sites and the craters, and that's where the playgrounds were built. And they were built with a community. And I love the idea of literally terraforming a crater of horror into a forum for play. It's absolutely magic.
Yeah.
And there were hundreds of playgrounds in the UK, and now there's less than half of what there were in those times. But we used that format and philosophy to work with a community in Halabja in Iraqi Kurdistan, which was the place where the chemical attack of the Kurds was in 1988. So similar historic trauma of a society, of this recent attempted genocide of a population, and the similar factors. There was a booming population, there was nothing for children to do, traumatized population, and a rise in road traffic. So all these factors that make playing out really difficult for children. So we used the adventure playground model. We co-designed with the community and built this playground really slowly over many years. And play worked in that same sort of way of like playing and making and being and kind of doing community work all sort of gloriously merges together. It's not compartmentalized. It's really special.
Yeah, amazing. What would be a project that you would love to get your hands on right now?
I'd really love to explore more about working with adults, like you say, and older people. In recent years, I've started doing a lot more work and learning and understanding of play design for children and young people with neurodiversity as well.
Yeah.
And that's been a really exciting journey, like learning and working with them, because we do a lot of co-design with the young people. And my sort of goal over the next few years is to bring the skills I've learned from design and build projects out into the wider world, which is one of the reasons I'm so happy to be talking to you, because there's I get hyper focused on a build when I'm doing it because I really want to infuse it with love and detail and beauty. And it sounds really kind of poncy. And I didn't say I built with love for many years because of working in a male dominated environment. I had to outswagger the geezers, let alone talk about love. But that's been a really important thing for me. But when I'm building, it's so intense and it takes quite a few months. And I want to reach out and sort of connect with more people in a more expansive way and kind of share the skills, not necessarily in an obvious way, because I'm not an architect. I'm not, I'm a bit, and coming here has been the perfect thing because it's, I sort of feel a bit like an interloper in a very academic world and I've sneaked in, but it's really interesting. And I'm really excited by the appetite like you have for hearing about this. It's very inspiring to me. It makes me think there's other things, but I'm not sure what they are yet. So I'm going to surrender to the unknown and see what happens.
The classical term.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you have any specific compound that has helped you on your personal journey that you feel, or a specific journey that has helped you evolve into the state that you did not lose the longing to connect to love and that beautification and because it's, to me, in those practices, I call it adorning the goddess. So the goddess is the goddess of nature, the goddess of this planet, but you're the embodiment of the goddess as well, right? So adorning that space. Did you have any experiences with psychedelics that have helped you keep that love alive, although you were in an environment where you were in the closet with it?
Every time, yes, but in a way that's not your typical kind of glorious robes, all that kind of, like the sort of images you see on psychedelic art, to be fair. That's not the experience I've had. They might be quite spiky, but I really love that. I really love the sense of, especially if you're getting complacent, oh yeah, I'll just take some of this, and the universe is like, you want to see the universe? I'm going to show you the universe. Really, you want to see it? And that's what I love. I really love that. That just keeping humble and just connected to not being too introspective and not being too focused on your own interior world. But for me, it's always external and connectivity to everyone around me, and a sense of kind of responsibility to keep connected to that, which is why I've always wanted to work with projects that work on kind of redressing the balance, because I feel really lucky that I had a childhood full of love and play, and through tripping for many decades and working in play for many decades, I've realized that isn't the case for a lot of people, and the effects are so profound. And I used to be, I have to say, quite cavalier about things, just like, yay, let's take this and go on an adventure. Because I had the psychological safety in myself, I suppose, to do that, and just hadn't sensitively considered other people. So that's been a big learning for me. Really slowing down and being careful and observant, and not being flippant with it. But again, not being too solemn of like I don't know, almost like objectifying psychedelics as a sort of spiritual thing in itself. You know what I mean?
So that's making it more part of the life itself. It's just it's an extension of, not something separate. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes. Not necessarily in a sort of conscious ritual way, but in just a sort of blended into everyday life way.
And that is where a lot of earth-based traditions work with as well, right? It's more embedded in life itself.
Yes.
In a way. Is it, in terms of the playgrounds, do you have any work around more ecological way and with climate or the materials you work with? Are you specialized in specific materials? Is there a material that over the years you've evolved into and started seeing differently? I'm curious about what is a material that really works with that. And
Well, I'm a carpenter by trade, so obviously I predominantly build and make with wood, and it's also very accessible for children to make with as well, as opposed to, say, metalwork. Getting them in welding masks is a little bit more complicated than giving them a hammer and saw. But for me, the learning's been more about trees as partners. I'm really influenced by the architect Hunter Vosser and the way he looked at, tree tenants and human tenants in buildings and beauty being woven into buildings and apartments. He's designing in Vienna, and really see it as a duty on every project to design in mitigation for the effects of climate change on children's play. So planting for the future, like we've planted hundreds of massive trees and creating sort of like microclimates where there's shade and children are insulated from extreme weather and hot temperatures. And it used to be really hard to persuade clients to plant trees. It was really odd. They used to say, "Oh, really? Can you do a tree with plastic leaves?" They wanted the look. I know. They wanted the look of a tree. They're like, "We don't want to sweep up the leaves," and kind of
sweep up the leaves.
Yeah, or can it just be fixed? And this idea that the landscape's fixed, and it's not a glorious continuum, which is really strange because you think childhood is this continuum. It's never fixed, and the way we interact with the world is never fixed. So I suppose rather than materials, it's more about the planting and the ecology being at the heart of it. And I've had to convince clients less, because I used to say, they say, "How can you build a structure?" And I'd say, "We'll do a structure if you can let us plant this amount of trees," even if they were reluctant. And now they tend to be more supportive, which is really astonishing that still only a few years ago, people in schoolyards were cutting more trees down.
Yeah, yeah. So are you specializing also in, for example, for private clients that want it in their own environment or house, or and schools as well?
Yeah, predominantly it's schools and adventure playgrounds and city farms, community groups, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't work for private individuals because of wanting to have maximum number of children being able to have that interaction and a sense of, there's sanctuaries for the imagination, which is also not just in the physical, like I was saying, it's the space to dream and to take a breath and just be and let things flow and just not be in this adult world that's aesthetically, it's so oppressive, I think, for a lot of children. And then obviously philosophically and psychologically as well. I mean, even learning in spaces like this in schools, this kind of environment for children with neurodiversity is really stressful. So I always want, if we're building in schools, my aim is that if children, when they're in the playground, forget they're in school, when they're out in the playground, their imagination's totally transformed. And that's when their emotions are regulated. They're able to sort of self-soothe. They're calm and they're focused but transported in that wonderful way, similar to the psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
And then we do a lot of training of kind of deprogramming adults to look at what children are doing in a different way, which I see as a little bit similar to looking at the world through a psychedelic lens, almost putting on the DMT glasses. When you've got the information, you can see the things that aren't there, which I love about psychedelics. When the air, you're aware of the air isn't just a space in between, it's all this stuff. And it's a bit like that with teaching adults what children are actually doing. Just look at it in a different way. It's the same thing, but it's something magic. It's not something to be stopped. To you, it's play fighting, but to them, they're learning about consent and boundaries, emotion regulation, really, really, really important stuff, the kind of limits of their own body and where it is in space, that sort of thing. So that's really important, because you could have an amazing play space, but it could just be used as an instrument of control by adults. They might say the terrible words, "Stop messing about," or you're not, if you don't stop doing that, you're not going out to play, which I think is so damaging. And I have to sort of then educate them on the human right of child to play.
Yeah.
So
yeah, beautiful. I think adults need to play too.
yes, they do. They totally do. And I think that do you think that can happen with the psychedelic experience, or when you do it predominantly, is it more about healing as from trauma, or is there a sense of just joy and play as a focus as well?
No, I mean for me, my work is not focused on trauma work, but I mean, there is always stuff that you can heal or learn about and then work with, and that is then the healing process, right? But in the containers that I create, it's play is part of it because it's a layered process. So I've developed a methodology around it. So there is a beginning, a middle, and an end. And there is a sequence of things that happen, that neurologically happen, that opens up someone, and has a capability and a capacity to be in a state of play because of the psychedelic. So it reaches a state back to go into innocence and therefore curiosity and therefore creativity. So when you have those qualities reawakened in someone through the activities that are then out of the psychedelic experience, and then look at the situation in their life, and that could be maybe a divorce or an unhealthy career or an unhappy career or maybe a physical challenge that they're looking at. So there is most of the time a predominant question that people come with, but play is very, very important. And I think we as adults look down, maybe not you, also maybe not me, but it's an adult thing to look down at play as a waste of time.
Yes, it's seen as superficially frivolous, but it's profound.
It's profound, and there is, I don't know which monkeys they are, but they play as a part of lovemaking, and that is really, really important in the connection. So I can also see like the play fight, what you could do, silliness with your partner, and that is also really important to do.
Yes.
Right? That's not what we do in the retreats, by the way. That would be really out of consent. But the play is from a different perspective, right? It's through body, non-verbally, but also expressive. And it depends a lot on the group and which type of play we put in and what the group needs. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds really exciting. I want to come on one.
You should.
Yes, I'd love to.
We're almost coming towards the end of me interviewing you. But I'm curious, is there anything that you feel, if I would give you a magic wand and you would say, and I could say, okay, anything that you would desire, we could make that happen. What would that be in relationship to play?
I would like it to be recognized as being profoundly important with far-reaching effects on individuals and the community, and to be funded, because the funding in this country, I know in Europe it's much better in a lot of countries, but here it's been systematically defunded over the last few decades, and the effects are so serious on young people. And there's this kind of disconnection, which is everything's compartmentalized in the non-psychedelic world. And this idea of, there's real concern about young boys and incel culture and these children on phones too much and all this kind of issues that are affecting youngsters. But there's no connection to the idea that if they're in a space of kind of free expression and creativity and making and inventing and just being, that is supported by adults that know that their role is to just support them, which is okay. If you want to smash something up with a hammer in this space, that is fine, and that's how you want to release your energy. But I think because there's not sort of direct indices of like, oh, that child's getting not as fat or something like that, all the things that the state is stressed about, obesity and anxiety and stuff, but it's not connected to the fact that there's, these places are being defunded and it's affecting the children that have the least the most and giving them even more lack of chances in their life to be able to be fully realized as their capacity of what they are, which
Yeah.
unless you've got a space where your mind and body are free to experiment and be silly and think deeply and create and play,
Yeah.
you can't get there, and it's just really sad. So that's what I'd like. Funding for playgrounds, adventure playgrounds.
Adventure.
In the corner of every town, like a corner shop, but there's an adventure playground. You can make it, you can build. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you build that with the community itself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. What is the one thing that you are excited to see or have seen at Break Convention?
Well, what you shared was obviously brilliant.
My chat was good. You see? Third-party validation.
Everything
Thank
I've seen,
you.
like I don't really look at the thing. I just sort of wander in, or like I feel like a bit of seaweed sometimes, washing around and just stepping into spaces with an open mind. And yeah, curiosity, which I think is another thing I wanted to say about you were saying what was your relationship with acid given you. I think curiosity in all ways of like looking at my work and my profession as well, and never being fixed in my thinking, going,
Yeah.
what else is out there? What are the connections? It's all about this multiple connections on many levels. But yeah, everything I've seen has been great. And also the after hour stuff, the psychedelic cabaret.
Yes, that was really
the
good
AI
yesterday.
cat. Oh my goodness. It genuinely is it is AI as well. It's not pre-programmed. It's brilliant.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Well, if you catch up with the AI cat, it's great. And I'm looking forward to the party tonight.
Yes, very good.
Are you guys going to that?
Yes, we are.
Brilliant.
So I'm going to close with some random questions, and I've been
Yes.
asking everybody here this one of the same questions because this is my favorite question to ask.
Right.
And that is, what is the meal that reminds you of home?
Macaroni cheese.
This is the second pasta we've heard.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, Darren had pasta as well. Yes, so that's really nice. And why?
It reminds me of the sound of my mum pouring out the pasta and it rattling in the saucepan. And I loved it so much. I'd even eat dried pasta out of pictures I made where I stuck macaroni onto paper and just pull off the gluey dried pasta and eat it.
Yeah.
Not that that was as tasty as my mum's macaroni cheese.
That's so good. And if you would be one element of a playground, what would you be? What kind of element of the playground would you be?
I'd probably be an incredibly high swing. You know, one of those swings, we call them border swings because they've got one small seat and they're designed that you can jump on.
Yeah.
So it swings back and then someone jumps on and then you get this massive cluster of children all kind of hanging onto each other, almost a bit like a swarm of bees.
Yeah.
And then someone falls off and everyone usually falls down. But yeah, that sense of like surrender and swinging out into space, it's a little bit scary, but you really like the feeling.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be.
If you could if you would be the inventor of one of the tools that you're working with, what will you be the inventor of?
I suppose the most useful tool, it sounds really boring, is listening to children and young people, but that's not an invention. In terms of tools for building, I really like ankle grinders. But
ankle grinders? Yeah. I don't even know what that is. It sounds
for cutting metal because loads of sparks come off.
Tantric. I don't know why. Ankle grind.
Yeah.
To cut metal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And when you cut
Precision.
it sparks.
Oh yeah, so
like pour off.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Very
Yes.
good. Very good. So thank you so much for being here,
Thank
Lizzy.
you.
It's so nice to meet
really
you.
appreciated the time and the space, and it's been a delight. And thank you so much.
Thank you.